Hello and welcome to this weekly wind-up with me, Kyle Warwick. The topics for this week's show are the completion of the Crossing the Pennines walk and the possible ban on all legal highs. The guests who will accompany these topics are Jan Scrine, who will discuss the Crossing the Pennines walk, and David Gill, who is from the base, and he will be talking about the ban on legal highs. The Pennine Heritage Trail has been going through rejuvenation and has recently been completed. So what does this mean for the Pennine walk? Jan is here from the Crossing the Pennines group. Hello, Jan. Sorry for getting the name wrong. Could you tell us what has been some of the work that has been taking place on the walk?
What's happened around the Colne Valley? The walk runs between Slaithwaite and Marsden. It's a circular walk. And so what we've been doing is we won some funding, nearly £50,000, from the big lottery fund to restore a pack horse track, only 220 yards, 200 metres, and that's £45,000 plus stone donated by Kirklees Council, and the walkers are welcome. And that's underway at the moment, nearly finished, beautifully restored, authentically. So there are big flagstones, pitch stones. You'll be able to go down it in any weather because it was terrible previously. But what we've also done, we've refurbished the 3 cast iron milestones which are on the Manchester Road, and we've had those professionally restored. They've been repainted, and we've commissioned 4 new artworks because we think that people will enjoy looking at interesting things as they walk around the footpaths. So we've actually got a pack horse track sculpture, and that's been done by Melanie Wilkes. We've got a replica guide stone or guide stoop. We've got some footprints along part of the trail through Merridale, and they've been carved by Kirklees College students and other people under Melanie's coaching. And also we've got a hare. A hare's being installed just above the Manchester Road. So we think that we've actually enhanced the area because we've worked on the other footpaths too, cleared the brambles and so on. We think that the area is vastly improved, and hopefully people will come from Huddersfield out into the Colne Valley as well as from elsewhere to enjoy it.
So it sounds like it's been a real community collaboration. Has that been the case?
It has, yes. We've had a lot of support from various community groups, and even more for the grand opening event.
The grand opening event, when will that be?
That's on the 4th of July, on Saturday the 4th of July in the afternoon. And so people will be able to go along to Slaithwaite from 1 o'clock onwards, and at 1 o'clock we've got the Huddersfield Youth Brass Ensemble playing in the Slaithwaite Community Centre, and there's tea and cakes in the community centre as well. The Deputy Lieutenant of the West Riding's coming along, and he's going to actually do the opening of the trail. The Deputy Mayor's party's coming along, the MPs and so on. That's the bigwigs, but the idea is it's fun for ordinary people. So the local children are making flags at the libraries in the morning so that they can wave those. And after we've done the official opening, Melanie Wilkes is doing a stone carving demonstration, and we're hoping to have some pop-up stands. After the actual speeches, about 10 minutes no doubt, then there's going to be a little procession of the children waving flags, perhaps in fancy dress. They'll walk up the canal and back again, and the official party will head off to Marsden. And in Marsden, from 2 o'clock onwards, there's a picnic in the park. So everybody is invited along. There'll be some seats, but bring your own rugs and bring your own picnic and listen to Hopeworks Jazz Band. Used to be Hayed Edge. They're playing for the whole afternoon, and the Deputy Lieutenant, when he's finished opening the trail in Slaithwaite, will drive up to Marsden, and he'll do a walk round at Marsden. The Scouts are doing a Guard of Honour. So lots of people involved. We've got a highwayman coming along. Our highwayman and actor's going to be at both ends. We've got the Halifax Town Crier coming to do the announcing. And then the Deputy Lieutenant and the official party will go to the band room where Marsden Silver Band's hosting an afternoon tea. So what's not to like?
Indeed, yeah. Sounds like a lot going on. How has the rejuvenation been received by the local community, would you say?
We've got a lot of likes on our Facebook pages. We've got a Facebook page, Crossing the Pennines, and we've got over 170 members of that now. People enjoy looking at the photographs of the progress, and people say, yes, it's wonderful, or even if they haven't a Facebook page, a Facebook link, they like looking at it. And when you're walking around, I've been dishing out our leaflets which tell you all about the walk. So they're saying, good heavens, we remember voting for you at the November vote for the funding. So people are really excited about it.
And going forward, what do you see the future of the Heritage Walk being, and how do you think it can benefit the communities?
Well, we've just had a film made by Kirklees Digital TV, which will go onto YouTube, and then it will be part of the Kirklees Council's Walking with Bears project, which is to get people out and walking. So that film will be there to encourage people to use it. And also we've got leaflets which will be around in all the libraries and tourist informations, not just in Kirklees, but also it'll be on the Welcome to Yorkshire website. So it'll be for visitors to the area, to Kirklees, to the Pennines, to come and have a look at the walk. And hopefully the real thing is to bring business to the local businesses, the local shops, cafes, galleries and pubs that's sustainable. Not ale trail problems, hopefully really nice people who will come along and enjoy the scenery. So, and also the local people, the different groups will maintain parts of the trail. So hopefully they'll stay involved too.
Good. And David, I know you're from the part of Huddersfield that's got some nice walks in it as well. Do you think these kind of heritage trails are good for local areas?
I think they're absolutely fantastic. We were just talking beforehand, I think this is something that I'd be certainly be going on myself in the coming weeks. I just think it gives people a reason to go out and get a bit of fresh air, a bit of exercise, and by having these markers around, it provides, I think, a bit of structure to people maybe who aren't that confident with walking, really. So it's fantastic, really good.
And Jan, I know there's a kind of trail element to it, and is there also a historical element to it in a sort of learning sense as you go along the walk?
Yes, because a lot of people don't understand that that particular crossing through the Pennines was the one that formed the prosperity of the Pennine villages. And the trail is intended to help people understand that the Romans used to walk through there when they were going from Chester through to York or Ilkley. And there's a Roman ford actually on our walk. You'll cross by a Roman ford. Then there's the pack horse drivers. So the pack horse trains going from Halifax across into Oldham or Marsden, and you'll see the restored route's part of the pack horse track. And after that we have the turnpike trustees who set up the proper roads, Blind Jack of Knaresborough and so on, who actually crossed some of the really boggy area around there with very unusual construction methods. And so we have those roads as well. And then after that, we've got the canal and the railway. So we're trying to get people to think about the different sorts of transport through the Pennine Gap.
And finally, what was that date again for the opening ceremony, just so people don't miss
4th of July, American Independence Day, you can't forget it, in the afternoon, starting at Slaithwaite at 1. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that. On to his next topic. On the 18th of June 2015, the Huddersfield Examiner reported that top musician Joseph Cullen faces jail after admitting to child sex offences. The world-renowned conductor who has been involved with Huddersfield Choral Society for many years has admitted sexually abusing 2 young boys. Cullen, who was until recently the Society's chorus master, he preyed on his victims while involved with choirs in Glasgow in the late 70s and early 80s. Cullen's attacks remained a secret as he later won 2 Grammy Awards for his work with the famous London Symphony Chorus. The married 55-year-old was brought to justice when a victim went to police in 2013, sparking a probe into the abuse that led to shamed Cullen admitting to 2 charges of using lewd and libidinous conduct when he appeared at the High Court in Glasgow on Thursday the 18th of this month. Mr Cullen was suspended by the Choral Society and he was charged with the offences last September. He had been director of the chamber choir of the University of Huddersfield. During the court case, a judge heard how a victim wishes he had a magic wand to rid what happened, while the other went from a really talented boy to ending up homeless due to his ordeal. Cullen had his bail continued meantime and will learn his fate when he is sentenced next month. As always, the weekly wind-up can be contacted about anything you hear on today's programme. info@kirkleeslocaltv.com. You can find us on Twitter by searching up The Weekly Wind-Up, and you can also find us on Facebook. Please join us after this short break when we'll be discussing the ban on legal highs with David Gill.
However large or small your business, attracting new customers requires dedication and a lot of patience. just like fishing. But you also need the right gear. Rods, reels, lines, hooks,
sinkers, lures, tackle box, tackle bag, net, bait, gas gloves, clothes, and pocket knife roach.
or you could simply advertise with KLTV. Online, grow your business and your clientele. KLTV, your vision made reality. Should have gone to KLTV.
And welcome back. Here's some more news from around Kirklees. Reported in the Huddersfield Examiner on the 18th of June, Richard Garrity was fined £80 for parking in the free parking bays at Huddersfield railway station. Self-employed joiner Richard, 49, paid £1 to park in a council car park outside Huddersfield railway station, but mistakenly left his car in a free station dropping-off bay. Richard of Newsham thought he'd paid for an hour's parking and returned after 42 minutes to find an £80 penalty notice on his Ford Fiesta. "I couldn't believe it," said Richard. "I paid for the ticket and parked near the steps to the station. It wasn't my intention to break the rules or get away with anything." Richard has been caught out before when he parked in a disabled space at the other side of St George's Square, so always make sure he pays. Now on to our next main topic. Over the years we have heard lots about legal highs and the changing laws with many legal highs. Many are now openly available in various different shops despite their highly dangerous nature. There has been an outcry that all legal highs are being banned as they are labelled not for human consumption. Take a look at what the people of Kirklees thought about legal highs.
Yeah, I agree with the illegalisation of legal highs.
I think it's something constructive and hopefully will make change for people.
I think it's a good thing because you only really hear bad stuff about it.
Don't agree with it.
I do not agree with drugs in any form unless it's for medical reasons.
It's probably a good idea.
I don't think it should be legalised whatsoever.
I think making it illegal will kind of make people realise the real risks of taking it.
Now, David, the consensus there seems to be pretty strong. A lot of people happy with the imminent ban on legal highs. What would you say is the most common legal high issue that you deal with at base?
I guess the most common thing that we see is what we classify as synthetic cannabinoids, which is a range of legal highs that are designed to replicate cannabis, so like a smoking mixture that people would put into a joint and smoke and expect to get the similar effects from cannabis. However, what goes into these things is anyone's guess, unfortunately. So people are expecting to get certain effects that they would associate with certain drugs, and they get completely different effects. And we're seeing all sorts of effects from this. Some people having quite mild effects on one end of the spectrum, and then some people having quite extreme, almost physical addiction style effects from it as well.
So what would you say is the dangers between legal highs and maybe some of the more traditional illegal drugs that people might know about, your cocaines, your MDMAs, things like that?
One of the key things drug workers always relied on is the knowledge around the substance and being able to give out harm reduction advice. So the advice about if someone is going to do it or is reducing it, that we can give them certain advice to help limit the effects from it. Knowing what the drug does to the internal system, what sort of advice, what sort of things to look out for, how to make sure that person can look after themselves. With legal highs, a lot of that information isn't there. We are unable to provide that advice, that support, that information that we would like to provide for people. So we've had to adapt a lot of the way we work, and we've become what we call symptomatic workers. So rather than inquire about the substance, because often with a lot of the legal highs, they're known as a brand name on the packet, but what's inside them can vary, can change. So what we've ended up doing is when we're seeing people is asking about how they've taken the substance, how it felt initially, 5 hours later, 6 hours later, how did you feel the next day, how did it affect your sleeping patterns, your appetite, and we're having to work based on those factors which has meant it's become increasingly challenging for people like myself to try and figure out what's going on. But at the current time, it's the only way we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's been quite a lot of talk with almost the semantics of the way that the bill has been put forward and the wording of the proposal. Is there any issues that Base has or yourself has with that kind of blanket ban, as they're calling it, on legal highs?
I think the main issue will be how it's going to be policed. The bill is actually known as the new psychoactive substancing bill. So it's the idea that anything other than caffeine, nicotine, alcohol and medication will be banned if it's deemed to be a psychoactive substance. But the issue I think that our service and I think a lot of national services have is what actually defines a psychoactive substance. Is it down to a smell? Is it down to what something triggers off in your brain? It's unfortunately quite open, quite varied, which will become increasingly more difficult when the bill comes into place, if it does, with how it gets policed, how certain things get classified, whether people are going to challenge it in the High Court, all sorts of potential issues from it.
So how do you feel about the outcry from people who are saying, stop the illegalisation? They compare the illegalisation of drugs to prohibition in the 20s and the problems that caused. What are your feelings on that?
Well, I think with any sort of legislation that brings in around drugs and alcohol, just banning a substance has shown throughout society that it doesn't really do much. If you're going to ban a substance, you've got to put just as much effort, if not more so, into the key education messages. A lot more information needs to be passed on to schools, to parents, to colleges, and to get the word out about what these things are and what they can potentially do to you. By just banning a substance doesn't necessarily mean it's going to disappear. We fear that a lot of the shops and the internet sites that are selling them will go what we call underground, and they'll start to utilise different means, if not perhaps classic means of drug selling down alleyways, hidden away from people at the back of nightclubs. And so the use might not change. It might just, how you buy it, how you go about it might change, but the use itself might continue.
The most recent one that's really gone from being legal high to being illegal has been MCAT. And I know a lot of people, there were quite big problems in the town with a lot of people and it becoming almost more dangerous because there wasn't, the people lost control of what was going into it and it went into illegal hands, which meant the quality of the product was almost dramatically reduced. Is that something that people should be worried about, or is that irrelevant really?
Well, I think MCAT as an example, it comes as a white powder, and unfortunately a lot of things comes as white powders. When it was sold in the shops, the purity was going to be quite pure. It was going to be quite high because the people selling them had no reason to cut it with anything else, had no reason to sell it as anything else. Whereas, like you say, since it's become illegal, it's been sold as all sorts of different things have added to it. People have been selling things that aren't MCAT and just calling any unknown white powder MCAT and selling it to people. So people, that when they buy their white powders, you're taking, I guess, the dealer's word for it, that what you're buying is what it says, what they say it is. If you've never taken MCAT before, but you're taking what you think is MCAT, one day you might actually try MCAT and it'd be a lot stronger than you think it is. So there's so many factors into it, but that's a perfect example of what making something illegal doesn't necessarily solve the problem. It just changes it somewhat.
How do you feel about this, Jan? What are your opinions on the illegalisation of legal highs?
I think it's a hugely complicated issue altogether. Defining the actual things that you're banning is absolutely a nightmare. But I do think changing the word from legal high will be helpful, because legal high sounds as if it's something that's actually quite acceptable. So if there was a different terminology to legal high, illegal high makes it sound exciting, but if the terminology could be changed, I think that would be really helpful.
And that's just it. The word legal, people associate with safe, and that's one of the biggest things that we've tried to challenge. But like I said, the technical term new or novel psychoactive substances just isn't a young person friendly name. They've taken that name legal highs or legals or herbal highs, herbals. They've kind of taken ownership of that name. So we have to try and challenge them and get that message out there that legal just doesn't equal safe.
Thank you for your time on that. On to our final topic. More news from the Huddersfield Examiner reported on the 24th of June. A giant chocolate tea cake has been created in Huddersfield. The 1 metre wide choc treat was made by Kirklees College's Gary Schofield. Weighing in at almost 30 kilograms, this chocolate tea cake may well just be the biggest created. The 1 metre wide chocolate coated marshmallow treat was created by Gary Schofield, the curriculum leader at Kirklees College, as a thank you to the students in his department. The tea cake was made using 84 eggs, 15 kilograms of sugar and 5 kilograms of chocolate. It is based on a chocolate shortbread and contains 18 kilograms of marshmallow created in 9 layers before it was covered in chocolate. While it's not official that this is the world's biggest, it follows on from the giant Jaffa cake Gary made last year as a farewell to his students. After a prize giving session, Gary cut the tea cake and dished it up to students. Gary said, "It's just a bit of fun at the end of the year for our students as a thank you for their exceptional and hard work. The college hasn't entered the chocolate treat as an official world's biggest chocolate tea cake with the Guinness World Records, as it thinks the cost of making it official is better spent on students." I'm afraid that's all we have time for on this week's Weekly Wind-Up. Thank you to my guests for a very interesting and engaging discussion. As always, you can contact the Weekly Wind-Up by email, info@kirkleeslocaltv.com, or you can find us on Twitter by searching at the Weekly Wind-Up, and you can find us on Facebook. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.